Hello and welcome, listeners. Thank you very much for joining me. I nearly said viewers, but some of you might be viewers by the time I might put this out on my YouTube channel as well. Yes, Sonia Clark here. Thank you for joining us. And I have got the wonderful James Whittaker, another fellow Aussie. Welcome, James.
Thank you for having me, Sonia. Great to see you.
Oh, it's lovely having you here. Seriously, absolutely awesome peoples. The things that James has done. He is a formidable leader and is certainly someone to watch this space on. So let me tell you a little bit about him. He's a keynote speaker, an international best-selling author, and a podcast host, film producer. Hello. And serious entrepreneur, plus a performance coach. He has been an entrepreneur with certainly being an author and with the filmmaking, and we'll get to that in just a moment, but also having had a background with finance and has had businesses in the health and fitness industry. Not sure what that crossover is, but he's put together, look, James, I think it's so fabulous. And I was reading the story about how you came about putting this book together. It's a companion for the Think and Grow Rich called The Legacy. And it's completely endorsed, authorized and endorsed by the Napoleon Hill Foundation. So, look, and I did see it when you actually launched the film to go with it. I didn't take it up at the time, so I am seriously going to take it up for this weekend and watch it. So let me just also that James has been featured in a lot of TV, print, digital media around the world, umpteen podcasts and radio shows, and in front of massive audiences as a speaker, and has been on shows like the Today Show, The Entrepreneur, Money Magazine, Sydney Morning Herald, of course, because he's got the Aussie roots, now being in California. So is that a good enough intro, James?
Yeah, you can probably tell that I had a bit of trouble sitting still as a child. And that I love talking to people too. Both things that have come out of that intro that you just gave.
And the bio, which is on the website there, peoples, it goes on and on. Seriously, he's got a fabulous accolades, and yeah, not even 40, so still watch this space. Like, there's still lots to come about, I think. And I think probably even maybe off of the spin-off of that fabulous new book. So please, James, give us a little bit of a story and where it's all at.
Well, Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy is based on it's the modern companion of Think and Grow Rich, which is the best-selling self-help book of all time. It was written by Napoleon Hill and released in 1937 and has since gone on to sell more than 120 million copies around the world. So I've just been so excited to be involved in that project when the Napoleon Hill Foundation asked me to go and write that book, because I'd spoken to them and thought that today's generations just don't naturally identify as much with people like your Thomas Edison and Henry Ford and things like that. So having an opportunity to put in real Australians, people like Janine Shepherd, as well as a whole bunch of other people like Rob Dyrdek, who was a skateboarder turned business mogul, and Barbara Corcoran, who's an amazing entrepreneur from Shark Tank in the US. A whole bunch of different people in this book, because it's really a collection of short stories as well as an introduction to each principle of Think and Grow Rich in a modern context. And we've also got a film version out. So yeah, the film and the book, and I've got two other books coming out with the Napoleon Hill Foundation in the next 12 months. So it's busy times, but very, very exciting, and just honored to be involved with such an incredible association who's doing so much work to help people help themselves.
Look, it is an amazing book, Napoleon Hill's book, and the principles are forever, fabulous foundational principles for any time as far as business is concerned, as well as human life, with our personal lives and professional lives. And I do agree, when I have spoken to people about it in the last decade or two, there is that little bit of disconnect. So I'm so happy that you have brought about it in a modern context, and certainly for the way that entrepreneurship is poised to really grow hugely in the next 5+ years. I mean, statistics were at that, it was going to be doubling in the next 3 years, but now having this pandemic being a bit of a catalyst to help people sort of get on their journeys of entrepreneurism a little bit more, we're going to see a whole lot more. So I think this has been a blessing in disguise in a lot of ways, I think, to help a lot of people in the future. And I'm so curious now what these next 2 books are all about. Give us a little bit of an insight. What are they going to be called and what are they about?
Well, I can't talk about the second one because
Okay.
that one's still in
Under wraps?
conversation. So
Okay.
I'm sworn to secrecy on that one. But the first one coming out will be released in September, and that one was actually the original interview between Andrew Carnegie and Napoleon Hill. So Andrew Carnegie arrived in the US as a penniless immigrant from Scotland. Yep. And was able to build one of the greatest fortunes in existence. And he's also the largest philanthropist the world has ever seen. So he spent years and years and years building up one of the greatest fortunes ever. And then he was able to use that wealth to go and help a whole heap of people. So he gave away 90% of his money before he died. And then the last 10% was given away after he died to go and fund things like more than 6,000 libraries around the world. So they've asked me to come and annotate that and bring that into a modern sense too. And when I was writing that, it was interesting timing because it was written at the end of an 11-year bull market run, which is the biggest bull market run that the US has ever had. And, a bull market run being the most prosperous time certainly from a stock market perspective and financial markets. And I went back and reviewed that, and I was actually very, very happy, I guess, in many senses, that it will really help people a lot. One of the big things it talks about is self-discipline and how you respond to failure. And these are the elements that you need to have in your wheelhouse if you're to succeed in an environment like what has happened with this pandemic, because people either panic, which leads to inaction, or they think about what is the opportunity there. And then if they can think about the opportunity and then figure out at the same time what they want, that's what enables them to be resourceful and resilient enough to go after what they want and see it through when adversity inevitably strikes, and inevitably strikes, as it does for entrepreneurs. People in the corporate world don't realize how lucky they have it, and constantly surprises me how any entrepreneurial pursuit that I go after, it's always about 50 times harder than I think it will be. So it's a good lesson that even with an environment that we're faced with, such as this pandemic, that we have everything we already need to succeed. It's already within our possession. We just need to combine timeless principles that have worked forever and will work forever, along with a modern blueprint, which is some of the things that I've tried to include in these books.
Absolutely. And also on your podcast, your recent one with being I've kind of fail at the title again. I knew I should have written that one down.
Win the day? The title of the episode?
Yes.
Yeah, 5 strategies to win during a recession.
That's right. That's right. And very well rounded and presented, I must say, what you did and how you tied it all together when I was listening to that podcast. As human beings, and I've been using that saying that you brought up by Plato, necessity is the mother of invention. As human beings, we're very good at it. We do have it. And right now we are we have a whole lot more ability than what we ever really have done, and we can leverage it. It is about digging down and really seeing things from a different perspective a lot of the times, and looking at really what is our resources. And we've got a plethora of resources available for us now compared to what people have had before. And, people have always had, resources in the past, but there's so many more. I mean, there's so many of human beings now that have access to that. And it's about, really digging down to, the fundamentals of being a human being, to dig deep and to get that grit and to move forward. We've, in one way, it's been really awful, a lot of the things that have happened as a consequence of the pandemic, and certainly for a lot of small business owners, excuse me, out there. But on another side of the coin is that we've got the opportunity to reset and to go forward again. And there's a lot of the times we don't get that opportunity, especially as entrepreneurs. We're on such roller coasters.
Yeah, we focus on what's happening to us, react, rather than getting on the front foot and being proactive to say, well, what are the circumstances that we want created and how are we going to use the resources that we have spent a lifetime accumulating?
Yep.
Because success in any business and anything in life, all you're doing is basically applying the resources that you have to create a list of action items, and then you get to work on ticking off those action items. That's pretty
Yep.
much what business is, as much as people try to overcomplicate it. So
Yep.
you either use the resources that you've got, or you can also go out there and get more resources, which is where starting relationships with other people can be very, very powerful. Getting other people excited in your mission. Whereas a lot of people, they just don't feel comfortable talking to other people about the frustration or the stress that they're feeling, or maybe they're too protective about a new idea. Recently on my podcast, I interviewed Michael Fox, who is the founder of a business called Shoes of Prey. He lost $35 million of investor money and spent a decade of his time on this entrepreneurial journey. So anytime you feel like you're having a bad day, imagine losing the lottery 35 times and 10 years of your life. And the lessons that he has been able to apply from that, I mean, it was truly profound. Just when he went to start this new business, he had so many learnings, and he just realized that he would just never fail again because, we all fail, but he was able to take those lessons from failure to reframe how he would approach things in the future. And now he's extremely successful with his new business. He was not only more successful with this new business that partnered with Heston Blumenthal, one of the world's most acclaimed chefs. He has also had the happiest day of his life within 12 months of having what was the worst year of his life in 2018. And I think that's a really important lesson for entrepreneurs, that as bad as it can be in the present, we can get through it. We will get through it if we have the right mindset, and we can not only enjoy ourselves, but have the happiest year of our life on the other end. If someone who lost $35 million can do it, then it's possible for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it's because there's a lot that tends to be wrapped up with a dollar, and a lot of people, the dollar can hurt quite a lot. And I often try to look back into the different stories of humanity over time, and with war and things like that. I mean, gosh, there could be so much worse. And what gave them the grit to be able to still stand up and to move forward no matter what. And the spirit of being a human with opportunities and possibilities is really quite amazing. So certainly by getting together, like you said, and forming strong relationships so that it can help inspire you. We all have our down times, so it's finding those that can help us, or finding ways that can help us during those times, so that we can look for opportunities of, things have to change, and we're hardwired to change. Don't get me started on that. We don't have enough time to get into that, but that's about the whole mirror neuron thing. But we're hardwired for it, and we can do it. So how can we stop being a little bit definitely reactive, like you said, and be more proactive? So what would be some of your advice then around that, being proactive? You said about consistency, and I'll quote you actually on something I heard just recently.
Oh, God.
Always says. But I thought, wow, that's such a powerful line. Consistent application of a proven set of success principles. I love that. I think that's like drop the mic thing.
It's funny that the moment you said that, I could actually have finished your sentence. So yes, I do know that was me.
That
So
was you.
Yeah, the idea of that. So everyone is trying to set, or the ones who are going after it are trying to set a world record each day. And if you try and set a world record each day, it's very difficult to be consistent. If you equate that to what you would go and do in the gym or some type of fitness goal, maybe your goal is to run a marathon, but if you start off by running a marathon on the first day, all that's going to happen is you probably end up in the back of an ambulance, and you don't want to be at a hospital at a time like this. But if you say, all right, if my goal is to run a marathon, what do I need to do? If you can find someone who's run a marathon before, or in fact specializes in coaching other people who run marathons, maybe you could go out and get a coach. So that would be the first part of your plan. Maybe you would go and find a sports dietitian who helps take people to give them enough fuel and nutrition to be able to feel energized for that run and for all of your training. So that's a second thing that you could go and do, is go and get a sports dietitian. You could go and spend a few bucks on some new activewear clothes so you feel better and more confident and don't want to feel that you've wasted it. Yeah, number four, you could go and find like an accountability buddy to run these things with you. And you could just follow your plan. So reinforce all of those different actions just with simple and consistent action.
Mm,
That's what enables you to achieve these massive things over time. It's not
mm,
trying to get a world record every single day. It's what happens when every single day you wake up and you open your eyes. You wake up, and what I do is, and of course, we all fall off track. It happens to every single one of us. But if you wake up and you write down three things that you're grateful for and three things that would make today a win, the people who don't know what it looks like to win today, they are the ones that can't expect to have success long term. If you wake up and you know what it is for you to win today, you are in a much better position because those three things nag at your brain the whole day until they've accomplished. And also starting from that foundation of gratitude is really important too, because it's natural human nature. We want to go and the grass is always greener. Where I work here out of my office, I can literally see my neighbor's yard, and it always makes me think of the grass is greener analogy. But we all have so much to be grateful for in our lives. And when we start off with a foundation of gratitude, and then we support that with intent, and then we reinforce those two things with simple and consistent action, that is one hell of a formula for success. It's worked for everyone through the history of humanity, and it will work for you too.
mm. Oh, fabulous, fabulous. So, okay, so then when people have got that going in their mornings, I'm gonna dig deep here. So when they've got that going, but how can they? What's some further advice you could give on how can they really try to reach some of those those goals if they've set it as a big goal, and it's not always good to set all big goals all the time, but I mean we're looking at, say, you've gone off and then approached someone, the foundation on putting this film together. I mean that's a big goal. So if some people do have those big goals, and it might not have to be that big, what advice would you give them for that?
Wow, there is a lot to that. So I find that people with goals, they're not emotionally charged enough. So you might have a goal of, hey, I want to have $1 million in the bank. It's like, yeah, cool. What for? And it's like, well, it'd be nice to have money. Yeah, what for? Tell me, what would you do with the money? And it's like, well, I don't know. That's not an emotionally charged goal, and you cannot expect to have the resourcefulness and resilience to be able to achieve it. So what I do with all of my clients, the first thing we do is we write down what is your perfect destination in 8 different categories of your life. And then we backtrack that perfect destination to 3 years and 1 year and 90-day goals. And then we take those 90-day goals and we turn them into action items. And then we go and schedule those action items in our calendar, and we can release ourselves from worry about the future, which is what most of us, particularly entrepreneurs, spend worrying about, is why aren't we at this destination in the future rather than enjoying the work that we're putting in today. If you just focus on the actions that are going to pop up from your calendar notifications because you've already put them in there, you can release yourself from worry over the long term. And then you just simply reset those 90-day calibrations. And then once every year, I just go and redo that success plan again. That's what I work with on all my clients. And it's that success plan that runs your entire life. Another thing that people can easily do, which is where most people slip up, they spend the time when they have the most energy. That is the time they spend doing their busy work rather than their life's work. So for me, I have the most energy between about 9:30 and midday. So that's the time when I do work that aligns with my life's work, my really, really, really big goals. The things that I can do on autopilot, like responding to emails or other things that just don't require as much brain power, I can do them later in the day. So when I was writing Think and Grow Rich: The Legacy, it was really important to me that I would spend 2, 3, 4 hours in the morning writing. So I would know that by lunchtime, I've already won the day. And pretty much every day, by the time it gets to lunch, I've already won the day. I try and schedule all those things beforehand. It's a lot better to do that. And then, but if you find that you've got more energy at 6 a.m., well, that's the time that you've got to be allocating to doing your life's work, the things that are going to get you to your really, really big goals, the things that you really care about, rather than someone else's agenda for your day. So if you've got to the end of the day and all you've got to show for it is that you've responded to a whole bunch of emails, then that's just not a productive day. You've been busy, but busy doing what is the question that I would ask those people. And emails, I've said this many times, they're like bloody boomerangs. You send one and they just keep coming back. So
Oh,
being
no.
productive doing email work is not a very productive day.
No, totally, totally. I'm thinking that most people would know what a boomerang is these days. It's just it's like a triangular in a way, or a bent stick. You throw it and it comes back at you if you're any good.
Yeah, that's right. It's an important clarification on the end there.
Yeah, if you're any good, exactly. Because yeah, anyway, another story. You said that you go through 8 categories. Now I can't say my words. 8 categories with your clients for the success in their life. What would be those 8 categories?
There's a whole different bunch of things. So you've got professional, you've got health, you've got travel. There's even material things in there, even though I'm just not really much of a material person. About the most materialistic thing for me is just having the opportunity to enjoy nice holidays and things like that. All of those things are available. I have the success plan template that people can go and download for free if they just click the link in my bio on Instagram. So people can go and just do that, go and download it. It's a free download, and you can go and do that. But just make sure you do it in the way that I mentioned, rather than trying to start with, wow, what are my 90-day goals? It's so much easier to say that, hey, if I want to have 1 million email subscribers as my perfect destination, what does that look like in 3 years? What does that look like in 1 year? What does that look like in 90 days? Maybe it's to be a best-selling author. Maybe it's to be a certain weight, whatever it might be. You can figure out, maybe it's to donate money to charity, whatever it might be. All those things can be accomplished using the success plan template as a foundation.
Lovely. Sounds really, really awesome. Love it, love it, love it. So then moving forward, then getting started for some people where they're pivoting at the moment or adding an extra arm to their business, what would be a little bit of guidance around them having to look at their business with a different set of eyes?
I'd recognize that the situation that you're in, the urgency that's created, might actually just be the best thing for you. So Apple was founded, they were competing with companies like Hewlett-Packard, who had very, very, very deep wallets. So Steve Wozniak, who was Steve Jobs' co-founder in Apple, said we succeeded with what we had. They simply didn't have enough money to be able to build out these lavish devices that had all these different ports. And they were able to create this demand because of the sense of urgency around what they had. So I would do things like really channel into that adversity, that urgency and adversity, which is like what you mentioned earlier about the necessity is the mother of invention quote. It's really, really important for people in this situation. Whereas most people seem to think that, oh, wow, this situation has happened to me, poor me, I guess we're just going to go out of business in the future, rather than creating a plan. I just read an article from Philip Johnson, or that mentioned Philip Johnson, who's the owner and chef of a restaurant called Echo, which was voted best restaurant in Australia many times. And I haven't been there for a while, but I know it's Philip Johnson's actually a friend of the family. And he was talking about that there's opportunity. He has found a whole new audience of people who didn't realize that fine dining was affordable, because their main courses have now gone from $40 down to about $25 each. So the people who are in the market for nicer food and have budget for that can go there. And people like Philip and other restaurants like that don't have a lot of the expenses around staff and different things. I interviewed someone on my podcast yesterday, and he was talking about there is a new trend now called ghost kitchens, where rather than having big space where you've got to cater for a lot of seating, you can just have an industrial a space in a big industrial kitchen where everything can then be delivered through Uber Eats and Grubhub or whatever food delivery service is available in your area. That's a huge opportunity for the restaurant business that can massively cut a whole heap of their overheads to make sure they not only not go broke through the situation, but they might come through it with a bigger audience from it. So that's really interesting that you can do, to go and think about getting outside the box around some of these strategies that you can apply. I think it's also important to recognize that this is just all part of the economic cycle. It's different to what happened in 2007 and 2009 as far as that was subprime mortgage crisis, and that was a whole different thing that affected financial markets. This is just all part of the economic cycle. This just happens to be COVID-19. The market has never failed to return to its previous high. So it will eventually return to its previous high. What opportunities are there out there? So if we know that oil is at record lows, or maybe that's a type of thing that you can leverage depending on your industry. I know that something like 80% of hotels are getting rid of something like 80% of their staff. So if you're in the market for doing in-person events, if you can plan 6 months or a year away, which is when I think all of this thing will be a distant memory, then you can get ridiculously cheap prices. I was looking at an event space for something that I was doing in America. They wanted $25,000 a day. And they came back to me after the whole COVID thing happened and said, well, now you can have it for $1,000 a day. So to have
Oh,
these things
wow.
locked in, yeah, without even the obligation of going ahead if the COVID-19 thing is still going on.
Yeah.
These are the types of things that you can do. We know that unemployment has massively spiked. In America, there's more than 30 million people that have filed for unemployment benefits, which is the biggest spike in the history of the whole country.
Mm.
So is that a horrible thing? Yeah, it's horrible, but what can you do about it? It means that you'll be able to access highly skilled people for a better rate than you would have been able to previously. They're
Yeah.
just a few examples of some of the things that are going on. So you need to figure out what are the trends that are going on in your industry. I'd find people in your industry who had been through these crises before. I would talk to them about what they're doing. I would form my own little mastermind. I would talk to people in parallel industries or complementary industries and say, if I'm a financial advisor, I would talk to a real estate agent or a mortgage broker or a solicitor. And I'd say, look, what are you guys doing during this time to make sure that we can thrive? It's the people who sit back and watch the news. They are the ones who are not going to come through this. It's the ones who are saying, what are the resources I have at my disposal and what can I do to get more resources, and what is the best way that I can create a plan to move forward? They're the ones that are really going to succeed and be the leaders of tomorrow through the actions that they're taking today.
Well said, well said. Yeah, and there's a lot of people that, I certainly don't watch much news at all. And but when I hear every now and then they say, "Oh, we've got so much time on our hands," and I'm like, "You've got to be kidding! Well, this is when everyone's so busy. Seriously, when we should be busy, really."
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, look, I think that a lot of those, I really implore people to rewind and to listen to everything that James has said, because there are just so many nuggets of gold that you've said in there. There's so many ideas and little seeds of inspiration in there that can help give people some really good ideas. And it is the time for incubation at the moment, and to really look at things in a different set of eyes, really, I think.
Yeah, definitely. There's huge amounts of opportunity out there. And when this was all going on, there's a good friend of mine who's a business partner in a big venture at the moment. And we had phone calls with some of the most successful business coaches and other leaders around the world. And these are very, very accomplished people. And it was immediately, let's get on the front foot. What are the benefits? How can we leverage this situation? Where's the opportunity? And a lot of that is around helping other people to get through it,
Yep.
because people remember it's having that human capital and those relationships. There's a whole
Yep.
heap of different things out there. And the benefit for you doesn't always need to be in the form of a paycheck.
Yep, absolutely. And look, my whole underlying ethos is to pay it forward. And I think that really now is the time when people can really start to practice that with no, premise that they to expect something to come back, and certainly not immediately. And I think people would be very surprised then how it actually can come back in life, and it shows up in life in lots of different ways. And this is the time where we can help build our businesses and our lives and our communities, and therefore our microeconomies, and therefore ultimately it impacts our macroeconomies. So this is when a time where we can just if there's nothing else that we can do, is just do it a little bit of pay it forward and help someone else out, and just say, reach out and say, how can I help? Look, we can all help each other out. It's a different type of way of thinking, I think, really, that business is going to go forward, which is very exciting for us entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it certainly is.
And I really look forward to seeing what's on the horizon. Certainly, we know about a couple of books there. Is there any other sorts of things on the horizon there for you?
Oh, plenty of things. We've got this We Are podcast event that we're organizing. It's got more than 50 of the most successful entrepreneurs and podcasters and marketers around the world. So we'll be doing, this will be the very first event, but we'll be doing more of these virtual events and
Lovely.
in-person events and things too, because I feel that most people, they spend tens of thousands of dollars and years of their life trying to figure it out for themselves. If you can just go and find people who've already got the success that you want, and then just listen to what they say, especially if they can
Yep.
reinforce it with a 100% money back guarantee. They are the people who are the real deal, who have got the runs on the board. If you can go and listen to them, and if they specialize in making people like you a success and they've got the track record to be able to do it, stop trying to do it yourself and stop
Yep.
throwing money down the toilet on
Yep.
the magic bullets and just put in the work over the long term.
Yeah, there's still always got to be a bit of effort.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but you know what I think, you know, with a lot of entrepreneurs, we really do enjoy the effort. It's trying to, it's still it's that mindset thing. And one of my go-to phrases that I sort of created is find the joy in it, and it all goes. Sometimes according to plan, sometimes not, but things will come about in a whole lot more of a positive way, and like attracts like. So if you don't like that, then, you know, we've got to start with ourselves and move forward from that. So yeah, look, I can go on and on, but I won't. So before we do a sign off, James, is there anything else you might want to say to the listeners?
Oh, probably the biggest one would be that each day, if you do not make the decision to win, you have automatically made the decision to lose. That's what I put up it's the very first slide that I put up at every single speech that I do. Each day, if you do not make the decision to win, you have automatically made the decision to lose.
Love it. Oh, that is a drop the mic. Love it. Again, I think that's another thing I'm going to put up on the wall. The amount of people and the phrases that I've been interviewing, and I'm going to have my wall full of quotes. Actually, good thing. I could take a photo of that after. Anyway.
That'd be good, yeah. A bit of inspiration to surround yourself with.
Yeah, definitely. Look, thank you again so much for sharing your time here and helping so many people, for, you know, those that are listening. So I really appreciate that. And it's certainly lovely to hear an Aussie accent too.
Yeah, likewise. Well, my pleasure. If I can help anyone, just reach out on Instagram. You can reach me at James Witt, JamesWhitt. You know, send me an email. Anything I can do to help, just let me know.
Oh, lovely, lovely. There's not many people like yourself, James, that are doing that. So listeners, I really do say, you know, take advantage of that. And I've certainly got your details on this website here too. So lovely. Thank you. We'll say see you
Sounds good.
later. Bye.
Thank you very much, Sonia.
Thank you. Bye-bye.